What's up, everybody? We're here with another new episode of the Last Wave podcast. This episode's going to be a little different. I figured I'd start doing a couple of these shorter episodes, extra episodes. I'm going to go with the name Extra Waves. I don't know. It's just something I came up with. But they're basically just like little addition episodes to the main episodes that the titles focus on. I mean, sometimes when I write out episodes, like I'm writing 8, 9, 10 episodes ahead, and then by the time I get to it, sometimes I've stumbled on new research and it doesn't always make it into the show. So I figured I'd just start doing some of these. These will be Patreon only. So that's another nifty little thing that the Patreon subscribers can get. It's basically just like a free range discussion. I don't have any notes or anything of that nature. But today we're definitely going over shadow people, shadow beings, that kind of stuff. And one thing I know I barely mentioned in the original episode is the fact that the shadow people have been tied to jinn. And I expanded a little bit on the episode more than my notes had because that is some of the newer research I did stumble across before or after I wrote up the notes. But I think this is a very, very solid possibility from what I have seen and based on the historical evidence. If you look up jinn, you can see that they're supposed to be here before humans. You basically have angels, demons, and then the jinn. So I mean, they were the original beings of this earth, allegedly, supposedly. And when humans were created, we pushed them out or pushed them out of the way. So I really think that that's a really good possibility. You also, I ran across a lot of stories and a couple of people from the ad that I put out that really went into believing they were cursed by these shadow people. And it would be like my mother has seen it as well. My grandmother, told me about it, and now I'm seeing it. And these jinn can apparently live supposedly, or it's thought, for hundreds of years. And ironically, that's what you also see in the Bible. It talks about people living for 6, 7, 8, even 900 years. So it's kind of ironic that you have this supposed being that was here during those times that still is able to live for hundreds of years. So I found that part interesting. Again, the origins date far back. They're known to covet dark areas, caves, things of that nature, and shadowy places, obviously. And a lot of that is attributed nowadays, obviously, to them being shadow people. But again, there is the I don't know if you'd say fairy tale or legends about Eve or Adam and Eve bathing her children, but God came to visit them, and the children weren't all bathed, so she hid some of them. And I believe I mentioned this in the main episode. She chose to hid the children that were not clean, and by the time God realized that, he said, "Because you have hidden them from me, I will hide them from you." So these children that were left unclean, these children of Adam and Eve, went on to inhabit the mountains and the valleys and the caves and places like that. So you start to see, again, I've spoken about it before, the paranormal, the web. You start to see all these little connections and stuff that just ends up getting tied together. And it's very, very interesting once you start digging into the research and digging into historical facts or historical beliefs, I guess you would say. But there's tons of this stuff out there, and these are a very, very interesting topic to go into. Shadow people is pervasive. It's worldwide. I know I mentioned also tying them into the hidden world as a possible part of that, because if you look at their influence on different cultures, I believe I mentioned I thought they could be the dark elves of Norse culture, known as that, and then maybe fae or fairies could be, the regular light elves. And you see reports of researchers and reports of these beings also being good and not all bad. Like humans, they appear to have free will. Some are good, some are bad. So there is also that basically makes them a sentient being. You're going to have your bad ones, of course, and you're going to have your good ones. So that also makes it a possibility that they are the elves of the Norse culture and Icelandic culture. But you could see the connections, but who really knows? I mean, there's two. I mean, if you heard the episode of the Wandering Gods, and I talked about all the different pantheons of gods around the world and all the connections between them, and you could tie all these different strings together. So it makes sense that if these beings have been around for hundreds and possibly thousands of years, that we would have seen them. We would have all seen them and called them different things. I'm sure you can look through other cultures and find references to other shadowy beings and people telling you the names that they have for them. But obviously, my main research is on the elves and things of that nature. So I definitely wanted to dwell on the fact that I think after further research, after I wrote up the show and put the show out, I do think they're probably jinn. And you can see there's also reports of people. Like I said, I've heard stories of people thinking they're cursed by these beings. I've read some stuff on how these beings can be summoned and used for that type of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they can be used in voodoo. I wouldn't be surprised if these shadow people slash jinn go a lot deeper into society and into history and things that happen all around us than we even can suspect. It's very, very possible that they are more deep rooted than we think. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say that they're probably the jinn. Definitely something to look into if you want to research it on your own. Again, Shadow People Archive. If you Google that, I believe that's the name of the website, Shadow People Archive, and it's just full. I mean, full of stories, short stories, long stories. Great detail, and it's just all reports of people seeing these beings. So it's really crazy to think that something like this could be, like I said, so pervasive throughout human culture, and we all just thought they were different things, but they're not. It could be at the source of anything paranormal. It could just be the jinn and the shadow people. So, but again, a little interesting tidbit, a little interesting conversation. But I think I will do some of these every time I find a little bit more research on something. We'll have one of these little episodes for patrons only. And hope you guys enjoyed it. I like the little free range talking. It's a little all over the place, but again, that Patreon's a little bit more personal. You're paying for that extra input. Again, I appreciate you listening. Appreciate you visiting, stopping in. Please watch the next episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.